Trauma Therapist Podcast, episode 510. All right, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast. My name is Guy McPherson. My mission is to raise the awareness of trauma and to support and inspire new trauma therapists just starting out on the trauma-informed journey. I do that with my membership community, Trauma Therapist 2.0, my online courses and workshops, and the Trauma Therapist newsletter. If you're a therapist of any kind and you work with individuals who've been impacted by trauma, I invite you to head on over to my website at thetraumatherapistproject.com. That's thetraumatherapistproject.com. All right, let's get started. All right, folks, welcome back to the Trauma Therapist Podcast, and welcome back to the second edition of the the Trauma Therapist newsletter episode. And obviously this is March, and I just sent out the third edition of the Trauma Therapist newsletter to all the subscribers. If you're not a subscriber and you're interested in doing so, you can check that out at thetraumatherapistnewsletter.com. And for those of you who aren't aware of this resource that I just started a couple months ago, I put together a monthly subscription resource really geared towards trauma therapists. I didn't want to say new trauma therapists, but really all trauma therapists, or therapists who are focusing on working with people who've been impacted by trauma, which is pretty much all therapists if you think about it. And I wanted to create a resource that gathers a lot of information and knowledge and inspiration from different sources out there. You know, I'm constantly amazed and inspired by people who are doing this work. And when I say this work, I mean helping people who've been impacted by trauma, you know, online, on Facebook and Twitter. I mean, there are people who are survivors out there, authors who are just writing incredible books, and people who are coming on the podcast. These people they blow me away. I mean, people who, like yourself, I mean, if you're listening to this, you're probably a therapist, you're probably a survivor or a coach, and working with people who've been impacted by trauma. I mean, you inspire me. That's why I'm doing this work. And I wanted to put together a resource that goes out each month and kind of curates and collects information and knowledge and resources to educate, but also to inspire. So each month we have information on each month we do a spotlight on a particular therapist, and or I call it, we put them on the cover. This month it's Sarah Payton, and I'll talk about her a little later. But we also have different topics like modalities. Each month we focus on a single modality. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about that. We have books and articles and workshops. We have conferences, events, and summits. There's so much out there. I wanted to put together an easy resource where you can go, okay, this is happening. Oh, I got to check this book out. Schools and programs that are offering courses and certificates in trauma. And believe it or not, there aren't that many out there, but there are more and more coming on board. Also, each month we highlight a few people, really incredible people who I really think you should know about. Most of these people have come on. In fact, all the people who have come on the podcast, but we take some time and we kind of do a deep dive into what they're doing, and can learn more about them, and you can pursue their work and so forth. And then each month I do a little behind the scenes video of what I've been up to this past month here at the Trauma Therapist Podcast. So, back to the cover. This month's cover, we have Sarah Payton. Now, Sarah Payton has been on the podcast a few times. She's also joined me as one of the master trauma therapist interviews for Trauma Therapist, my membership community, Trauma Therapist 2.0. And in fact, we did a series of podcast interviews, and I haven't really done too many series. I've done a couple of series, but one has been with Sarah. So she did about 3 or 4 videos, and you can access each of those by going to my website at the traumatherapistproject.com and just clicking on the podcast tab and punching in, searching for Sarah Payton, and her interviews will come up. But if you're not familiar with her, I'm going to give you a little, some info about her. Let me see here what I have here. Okay. So Sarah, I wrote down here that she's definitely been one of my favorite guests on the podcast. And why is she one of my favorites? I mean, you talk to her and you listen to her and you just hear in her voice, in her tone, this calming, balming effect just wash over me. And I think it would be you too. And it's just amazing. You know, other people come to mind. Sharon Stanley, another guest I've had, she comes to mind as well. But what Sarah focuses on is something called nonviolent communication, or NVC. It's a mindfulness practice of employing togetherness or resonance in how we speak, how we listen, and the meaning we make of what people say, especially when they express pain. A central tenet of NVC is that humans all share the same basic universal needs, and that when those needs are unmet, we experience distress. She goes on to say what we might call, quote, needs consciousness, unquote, is a potent way of inviting our clients to honor and acknowledge the of courseness of their emotional experience, instead of analyzing, reframing, dismissing, shaming, blaming, defending, deflecting responsibility, or trying to change what is true for our emotional selves in any moment. As we become familiar with hearing universal needs and longings in our clients, we start to understand the relationship between body sensations, emotions, feelings, and needs. Okay. And that's just a little bit of what's in the newsletter. I'm not obviously going to go through it all, but I just wanted to give you a little taste, kind of whet your appetite. But her work is really inspiring. And if you're a therapist of any kind, definitely check her out. And again, you can check out the newsletter here at the traumatherapistnewsletter.com. All right. So again, each month we have someone on our cover, and Sarah is on this month's cover. And I'm really excited about it. Okay, the next section here is modalities. Last month in the newsletter, we focused on sensory-motor psychotherapy, which was my background and experience. This month, we're looking at somatic experiencing. And I want to say again, you know, these are not advertisements for these modalities at all. They're not sponsoring this newsletter at all. I just want to provide information on the different modalities, the many different modalities out there. You know, how do you choose? I mean, if you're a new trauma therapist and you're just getting into this, how do you choose what modality to focus on, to read about, to take a workshop on? I mean, there's so many, right? And what I wanted to do is to provide a resource where each month you can come and read about a particular one and look into it. In addition to kind of explication here on somatic experiencing, or SE, we also focus on one of the practitioners, in this case, Abby Blakesley, who practices somatic experiencing, and she was also on the podcast. So I provide a link for her episode as well. You know, when I think of I think it actually was Bessel van der Kolk, who said when he was on the podcast, you know, you can't be expected to know everything, to be an expert in all of the different modalities, but you can be expected to know a little bit about most of them, right? And I know often on the podcast, I've asked guests, you know, what do you advise someone to, in terms of if they're interested in pursuing or thinking about pursuing a particular modality, how do they choose? And oftentimes guests, I'm thinking of some guests will say, well, it's got to feel right for you, right? You've got to have an investment in it. It's got to fit you. And I think that's really true, right? You can't just go out and study something just because everyone says it works or it works for that particular person. If it doesn't feel congruent with you, it's not going to work. It's not going to resonate with your client. And I think that's important. And that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to include this section, is so I can give you an opportunity to read about it and say to yourself, well, that makes sense to me, or yeah, let me pursue it further. Okay. All right. So let me just read you a little bit about somatic experiencing if you're not familiar with it. Somatic experiencing, or SE, is a method. It's a body-oriented approach to the healing of trauma and other stress disorders. The method was developed by Peter Levine, best-selling author of Waking the Tiger, resulting from his study of stress physiology, psychology, ethology, biology, neuroscience, indigenous healing practices, and medical biophysics, with decades of successful clinical application. The SE method releases traumatic shock, which is key to transforming PTSD and the wounds of emotional and early developmental attachment trauma. The approach offers a framework to assess where a person is, quote, stuck in the fight, flight, or freeze responses, and provides clinical tools to resolve these fixated physiological states. Okay, just a little bit about SE here. And again, we highlight Abby Blakesley, who is a practitioner, and provide a link for her podcast interview here, which is another cool thing I think about the newsletter is, you get it, you have these links right there, and you can check everything out. So I like doing that. All right. Next, let me just grab a sip of coffee here. So I got my coffee and I got a piece of my chocolate bar right here. I'm good to go. Hang on one second. Excuse me. All right. Books, articles, and workshops. Another heading here. And again, there are so many books, right? And I reached out to some publishers, and they've provided insight into what books are coming out, some new books and so forth. I'm going to share with you one of the books we have featured this month, and it's called The Connections Paradigm by Dr. David Rosmarin, a leading voice in the psychology of religion and its application to mental health problems. Dr. Rosmarin has given faith-based providers an entirely new language for how to intertwine spiritual, interpersonal, and mental health domains in the interest of clinical care. This innovative volume shows how ancient Jewish teachings on the relation of body and soul can be combined with a broad array of modern evidence-based approaches to psychological care, from exposure to experiential acceptance, from nutrition to interpersonal compassion. There's a significant body of science showing that embedding evidence-based intervention into a spiritual journey is a powerful combination for people of faith. But providers need a more general approach that stands one step above the details of particular religious commitments. All right. So that's the Connections Paradigm. You can read more about it here. If you subscribe to the newsletter. I've got some other books in here. I've also got an article. Let me see here. A bunch of books actually here we're featuring this month. Workshops also, a couple of workshops. One called Trauma Awareness and Embodiment by Leslie Bullock, LCSW. Through PowerPoint, guided lecture, and brief experiential embodiment practices, this workshop will provide therapists and other mental health practitioners with a comprehensive understanding of both individual and societal systemic trauma, with greater emphasis on individual trauma. So that's coming up in April. Another workshop we're featuring is March by Marshall Lyles, another one of my favorite guests. An article we're featuring this month. Symptoms of trauma and traumatic memory retrieval in adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. You can read that article here again. All right, so we're moving along here. The next topic is conferences, events, and summits. A bunch of conferences are coming up. Just tell you about a couple of them. Oh, a movie came out too called Trauma, the movie. New techniques and therapies have totally changed the game. The most radical kindness you can show yourself is deep attention, acceptance, and unconditional love. You not only deserve it, it's a vital ingredient in restoring yourself to a being radiating grace and vitality. Definitely, we have the link up here for the movie. One of the other conferences we have, Beyond Identification, Heart-Based Psychotherapy. This year's Beyond Identification program focuses on the practice of psychotherapy grounded in a heart-centered approach. The heart has been recognized as a center of awareness in many spiritual traditions since ancient times. Recently, the field of psychotherapy has begun to recognize its relevance from both neurobiological and experiential perspectives. Okay, and you can definitely check that out. A lot of conferences here. Trauma Awareness and Embodiment Workshop for Mental Health Practitioners, Engaging Embodiment Conference, Somatic Applications for Health Education. So just, again, and a lot of them here. You can check it out at thetraumatherapistnewsletter.com. All right. Next heading is schools and programs. In this section, we talk about schools and programs that are offering trauma and trauma-related tracks and or certificates. This month, I'm focusing on two. One at San Diego State University, the Restorative Justice Practice and Trauma-Informed Care Certificate, which is really cool. Again, you can read about that. Take these online. You know, it's crazy to me to think that still it's, you know, I talk to educators and teachers and professors who are working in the field, and still their response is that there still aren't that many courses out there to teach about trauma. Someone reached out to me and asked if I would post a note that they were hiring a social worker. I believe it was. I think it was a social work program, and they wanted to find a trauma-informed therapist. And they said, we're having difficulty finding people who have the educational background in trauma. And here we are, right? 2021, that's still happening. There's still, I think as great of an inroads we're making, there still is a dearth of information, a lack of formal education for therapists and coaches of all kinds out there. And in part, that's what I'm trying to do, provide resources for people who are interested in working with people who've been impacted by trauma. All right. The next section here is the incredible people section, one of my favorite sections. I couldn't think of what else to call it. But man, there are people out there doing incredible work, inspiring work. And this month, I focus on three of them. Joseph Bobrow, who has been on the podcast and also provided one of the masterclass video interviews in the membership community, Trauma Therapist 2.0. Just one of my favorite, guests. So inspiring. He's a psychoanalyst, an author, an activist, and the founding teacher of Deep Streams Zen Institute. Just read a little bit about his bio here. He's long been integrating East and West to create environments that transform individual and collective anguish. Among these, a rural cooperative school for young children, an educational and support program for divorcing families, mentoring and meditation groups for incarcerated teens, and acclaimed reintegration retreats that mobilize the power of community to help veterans, their families, and their caregivers transform the traumas of war and find peace. Joseph tells the stories of his integrative work and its applications to building peace in his book, Waking Up from War, A Better Way Home for Veterans and Nations, with a foreword by the Dalai Lama. And that's pretty cool to have a foreword in your book by the Dalai Lama. But you can read more about Joseph Bobrow here. And again, these are people I really feel who are so inspiring, and it would be great to for you to know about them. Another person I include in here is Fran Waters. She's been on the podcast. Just awesome woman, man. She's one of the therapists you should know about. Continually inspires me. Also have a link for the interview I did with her in my series, Managing in the Midst of the Pandemic. Excuse me. Fran's an internationally recognized trainer, consultant, and clinician in the area of childhood trauma, abuse, and dissociation. She's presented all over the world, doing this, working in this field for over 40 years. She's a past president of the International Society for the Study of Trauma and Dissociation. She also serves on the editorial board of the Journal of Child and Adolescent Trauma. She's the author of the book Healing the Fractured Child, Diagnosing and Treating Dissociative Youth. Again, you can read about her. There's some other people I include also here that I'm not going to tell you about. You can check it out at the traumatherapistnewsletter.com. All right, and that's it. And then I have a video, a behind-the-scenes video, which I'm not going to play, but you can check it out when you become a subscriber. And that's it. So I just wanted to give you an update, a little snippet of this month's newsletter. And again, thank you so much for listening, and thank you for doing the work you're doing. I mean, if you're listening to this podcast, you are, again, either a survivor, a therapist of some sort, both, most likely a coach, and, doing incredible work. And I sincerely want to thank you. We need people like you out there. And I also want to thank you for listening to this podcast and supporting this podcast. So again, if you're interested in becoming a subscriber to the Trauma Therapist newsletter, check it out at the traumatherapistnewsletter.com. That's the traumatherapistnewsletter.com. Have an awesome week. Stay safe and stay healthy out there. All right, take care.